So it's Sunday around noon, and I just finished preaching and leading worship at First Reformed Church of Sodus, New York. And Esther came with me, and I thought, since we're this close to Sodus Point, after church, we should drive up to Sodus Point. So Esther and I are walking to the lighthouse. But I wanted to share a part of my sermon this morning that I thought was just really great from the passage in Leviticus that I preached on. So I thought, I'm a guest preacher, I got nothing to lose. I'm going to preach Leviticus 26 that has these promises that God fulfills in Jesus Christ in the incarnation. So Leviticus 26, there's this verse in the middle where God says, I will not abhor you. And that phrase, I will not abhor you, it's like a Biblish phrase. I don't know about you, but I've never used the word abhor in a normal sentence ever. But I looked it up in the Hebrew, and the Hebrew actually says, my nephesh will not abhor you. And nephesh could be translated as like soul or being. So God is saying, my soul will not abhor you, or my soul will not detest you, is this promise of God in Jesus Christ. But I think there's even more there, because nephesh can also mean that nephesh can also mean like your throat or your esophagus. So it's kind of like God is saying, my throat or my esophagus will not gag at the thought of you. I looked up in the commentaries, they say like, yeah, this is actually a thing. The verse could actually be translated, my gullet will not despise you. Or I want to translate it as like, I will not get you stuck in my cross. So God is basically saying this promise in Jesus is that I will not find you disgusting. You will not trigger my gag reflex. You won't make me barf. And that at first that kind of sounds offensive to us, like that God would find us disgusting or gross. But then I think about how God fulfilled this in Jesus Christ. And that when God showed up in Jesus, when Jesus was God coming near to us as a human being, that Jesus came near to the blind, the lame, and the lepers. And we've lost track of how visceral this experience of leprosy was, this skin disease where it's kind of like your flesh is rotting on your body while you're still alive. So in Jesus' day, lepers were quarantined or isolated from others so that they wouldn't infect other people, but they were also quarantined or isolated just so that people wouldn't have to smell them, because they smelled just horrendous or awful. But to think about Jesus, who shows up to heal the lepers in a place where everybody else, if a leper was there, they would just be so revolted. It would be really, really, really hard to not throw up. But Jesus would come near them and bring healing and wholeness. So I think about this promise that God makes when God says, I will not abhor you, or you won't trigger my gag reflex. I won't barf at the thought of you. To say that God doesn't hate you in Jesus Christ. And so many of us, and I know myself as well, deep down, we have these feelings of shame or of self-hatred, where we may be convinced that other people are disgusted by us, or that God might even be disgusted with us. And we carry this shame and this self-hatred, but this promise that God makes, I will not abhor you, I will not find you disgusting, fulfilled in Jesus, is this truth, that in Jesus, God is not disgusted with you. God actually delights in you. God loves you, and God desires healing and wholeness for you. I thought that verse in Leviticus was just so crazy, I had to share it. And now I'm going to enjoy a little bit of time at the lighthouse with Esther.